In a huge break with tradition, the IRS has ended a 71-year ban on pastors being disallowed from endorsing a political candidate. We've heard it lots of times. We come to our pastor and we say, "Hey, we want to have you talk about pro-life." I'm sorry, I can't do that. There's something called the Johnson Amendment. We don't want to lose our 501c3 status. Or you say, "Hey, can you endorse so and so? He's pro-life, pro-gun, pro-homeschool, and the other guy is a liberal as all could be." But no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. There's something called the Johnson Amendment. What is the Johnson Amendment? Well, Lyndon B. Johnson, LBJ, way before he was president, a decade before he was president, in 1954, was responsible for something called the Johnson Amendment, named after him, that banned preachers from talking politics, banned preachers from endorsing candidates, banned preachers from going against a certain candidate. Just you stay away and leave it alone. Three-quarters of a century has been going on. Now, why did Lyndon Johnson do that? Well, simple. That was a communist scare in those days, where there's a real thing called communism, but the liberals in Hollywood kept saying, no, communists don't exist, McCarthyism, etc., etc. So Johnson was called a communist. He was really liberal. Maybe he was a communist. But what's the difference? If you're an extreme liberal and you endorse all the communist platforms, positions, he walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, might be a communist duck. So, at any rate, that's the Johnson Amendment. Let's hear it. Hip hip hooray. 71 years of banning free religious speech is over. Thank you, Donald Trump. Question I have is, why didn't Ronald Reagan do this? Why did we let Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, get away with it for all those years? Now, the people that brought this legislation forth, that helped trigger this, was the National Religious Broadcasters, and I believe there's another few churches that sued the IRS over this. And we've had issues like that before, but this time it actually went over the top, and it's Trump's IRS now, and it's gonzo. Now, in reality, did the preachers have anything to be afraid of? I think in the whole history, in 71 years, there was only one case, and it's questionable about that, one case where one religious organization actually lost their 501c3 tax exempt status. So I don't know. If you read the Bible, the last chapter in the Bible, it's called the Book of Revelation. They have a whole list of conditions or offenses that could make a person go to hell. It talks about people in hell who it's loaded of effeminate, liars, blasphemers. But what leads a list? Cowards. Yeah, look it up. Cowards leads the list. So for 71 years, how much cowardice has there been? I love pastors, I love church, I love Christianity, but I got to say it the way it is. For 71 years, how many pastors has avoided endorsing candidates who are pro-life and let the pro-abortion candidate win? Think about it. For years, pastors have hidden behind 501c3. Don't you think God would have blessed them if they would have had the guts to stand up and say, this is the truth. I don't care what the IRS would do. I think they could double the tithes and offerings if they did something like that. Well, now there's no excuse. Go up to your pastor and say, please start talking pro-life from the pulpit. Please start talking pro-Second Amendment rights from the pulpit. Please start endorsing candidates. Don't just say, well, we're for this and that. No, outright. If you know a candidate is good and another one's bad from a biblical perspective, endorse the candidate by name. Pastors, I'm challenging you. Start doing it. Look at it as a race to see who can be first to endorse the most good candidates. Now, if you had a few people in your congregation say, we don't want you to endorse the candidates, well, explain why you're doing it. So the Johnson Amendment is dead. Well, technically, it's got to go to Congress and other things, but I mean, essentially, during this administration, Trump basically has opened up the spigot for preaching anything and not being afraid of the IRS. Pass the word on. Thank you for watching.